Skechcraft is recorded in front of a live internet audience and supported by listeners like you. Please be sure to leave a review on iTunes, like and share our Facebook page, and subscribe to the YouTube channel. All links can be found at Skechcraft.com. That's Skechcraft, C-R-A-F-T, the name of the podcast, .com. Remember, every little bit counts, and it all helps to grow the show. Thanks. Welcome to Skechcraft, the podcast for art, games, and process junkies. I'm Rob Duenas, full-time illustrator and graphic artist Esquire. This is an unedited podcast, which will probably contain strong language, so listener discretion is advised. Hello everybody, this is Rob Duenas, graphic artist, Esquire, and host of Skechcraft, the podcast for art, games, and process junkies. It's fine, it's process junkies, I don't care. So, I am going to try and talk slower. Some people complain that I speak too fast. And you know who you are. Anyway, everybody, welcome back to the cast. Today we have a Q&A episode. This is basically where I sort of round up some questions that sort of build up over Facebook, Twitters, emails, and DeviantArt. And I try to directly answer them all for you here, so you all get to enjoy in the answers as opposed to me just spending forever individually replying to people and never sharing that stuff. So before we get to that, let me just give you some updates really quick. Concerning the Kickstarter, it's been fun. It's been really fun. It's been a really fun wait. So I'm still waiting. Basically, if you aren't aware, I launched a Kickstarter for the Avengers prints. I was very curious to see what would happen. One, I just wanted to be able to build a Kickstarter as quick as possible. And it did really, really well. And in the first 24 hours, we got a DMCA copyright, notice from Disney. So our legal support drafted up a reply with the fair use and everything. And we have 10 business days to wait for them to reply before Kickstarter will turn it back on. So the 10 days is somewhere between Friday and Saturday of this week, or I don't know, Friday or Thursday of this week. So 25th or 26th. Let's see if it's 22nd, 23rd, 24th. Yeah, so somewhere between Thursday and Friday of this week. So we shall see. And then secondly, we're still talking to Marvel Licensing. It's not quick. So they're cool. It's going to take some time to get that going. So I will give you guys more updates as that progresses. But hopefully a week from now, it will be back up and we can all stop this nonsense. I did get some feedback on the Facebook. People wondered why I was trying to crowdsource fan art. And the reason, it's kind of interesting from my point of view, was that, there really is no difference between doing that and putting fan art you don't have the rights to up on Society6 or Etsy and selling prints there, especially Society6, which it's a little bit more popular on a lot of levels, and they specialize in straight prints. So I was really more curious to see what would happen. I honestly thought maybe I'd do, maybe 1,000 or 1,500 at the most throughout the length of the Kickstarter. Turns out within the first day I was breaking 6,000, so did a little bit better than I thought I would. The response was interesting, but that being said, there is some fair play here, so it's really just a matter of whether they think it's worth the trouble to go after me. If they don't, then I'm then going to proceed and move forward. I certainly believe that they haven't, in my point of view on this, is that they being Disney or Marvel or whomever, really haven't made any sort of case about what's the difference between DeviantArt hosting a bunch of fan art that they get they get traffic. Maybe they don't sell fan art, right? But they get complete traffic and eyeballs and everything else because they host fan art. What's the difference between making money off that and, say, Society 6 having a whole website full of, even assets from movie assets, selling prints, and then Kickstarter? Now, a lot of people would say, well, Kickstarter is more popular, but trademark infringement doesn't imply popularity. It implies protecting your trademark. Sorry, copyright infringement. And in this case, the as I know it, the sort of foothold that we have, that we're sort of standing on, is that it's fair use, in that I'm not doing anything to hurt them from selling anything Avengers related, or to tarnish the brand in any way. So I'm not costing them any money or taking away sales. If anything, I'm increasing what have you. So I know it may seem a little shaky. If they reply and want us to stop it, then I'll stop it. And, guys, I'll just put up a sketchbook or something else. So I'm just curious to see what would happen. All right. That's how I am, so that's basically the thing. We will know sometime this week. So what else? Comic-Con for Phoenix is coming up in a month. I will be there at booth 314 under Rob Duenas or Skechcraft, however that worked out. From now on, I'll be really pushing them to put it under Skechcraft. So when I'm at a con, people will know what to look for. Right now, the plan is to really sort of build the name of the show a bit. So you'll see a lot more with me using that. I may or may not have a sketchbook exclusively for PhoenixCon. If I'm able to put it together in time, it would really just be like 24 pages of art. I've never done anything like that, so I'd probably run 50 copies or something. So I do plan on doing something more elaborate through Kickstarter or something toward the future. I'm just uncertain right now what to do because I'm sort of preoccupied with the current Kickstarter situation. So I'm not really trying to create more work for me right now, or any mental work for that matter. I am, however, planning on doing some Iron Man 3 saucies. So I will basically be putting up 3 roughies this week. And I'm going to take suggestions from DeviantArt for 3 others. Now, this time, it's going to be a little bit different than the last time I did a set. It's been almost a year, actually, since I did a set. Now, I'll be doing these more often, folks. It just took me a long time to clear out all my freelance that I had sort of signed up to do. I really didn't get clear my freelance schedule until like February or March of this year. So I'm just now sort of wheeling into focusing on doing my own stuff. So as for print sets in the future, if I do launch them on Deviant first, how it's going to work is, rather than saying that the print sets are limited to just DeviantArt, I think the thing to do will be I'll offer. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to let you guys be able to pick, DeviantArt people pick the characters that I do, like half of it. So I'll come up with 3. You guys will come up with 3 and vote for which ones you'd like me to do. And then all the people on Deviant, will be able, anyone who pre-orders or picks up a set, anyone who pre-orders will be put into a pot to win one of the pieces of art that I'm making for themselves, or they can request something. So I don't know. I haven't figured that out yet, if I'm going to let them request something or just pick something I already did, because we shall see. If it sounds like I'm like trying to work that out, it's because I am. I'm very loose on my feet when it comes to plans and ideas until I've settled. So I'm still like kind of working that out. I'll have it all figured out this week, put it that way. So that's it for PhoenixCon. That's going to start the 23rd. I had hoped that the Kickstarter would be rollicking forward and we'd have a couple 2 weeks left on that, so I would be able to use some of the funds to fly Josh, my business partner on Skechcraft. He's the guy who helped me build the website for GameFan, and known Josh a long time. He's really, really into video and stuff. He's been doing that for a long time. So now what he's done is he's kind of gone in with me, and he's sort of the cat who's been answering you if you've been emailing me or leaving me Facebook posts. Josh is usually the one handling a lot of that, just to sort of free up a lot of my tedious sort of paperwork stuff. So I really wish I had time to answer every email. I honestly, as little as I am, as small a cat as I am, I do get actually quite a bit of feedback. So Josh is, especially with the Kickstarter, he's been able to monitor that. But what I was trying to get at is I was going to use some of the funds from the Kickstarter to fly him out and videotape and record and document the whole con process. I do not believe that I'm going to be able to do that now for this con because it costs a little bit. So bummer there. However, I'm not disappearing anytime soon, I don't think. So toward the future, that is something we'll be doing with the next con, is trying to use some of those funds to fly him out and to sort of, again, document the whole process. And the real goal with those Kickstarters is to be able to do that for every con I go to fly Josh out, to have him record everything. I mean, it's not going to be some big, elaborate 2-player productions kind of documentary, but I do think being able to be there and watch me put together prints and sort of pack everything up and, just sort of go on a little road trip to Comic-Con or to whatever con we go to would be kind of cool, even if it was like 20, 30 minutes or something. So that's something that we will be doing sometime this year, one way or the other. So let's see where we are at in terms of time. Great, 10 minutes. All right, so let's go ahead and move on to the Q&A. All right, so Q&A. My first email is from Sean. Let me bring up Sean's actual email here, because it's way in there. Here we go. Sean's Solder is a really cool cat I met at MesaCon or PhoenixCon way back a couple years ago. And he's a big fan. He commissioned the Spawn and Haunt pieces that I did recently, the pencils, and then I colored them myself, which the prints are available at the Etsy store. Links are in the podcast. So he asked me some questions about creating digital art. He wanted to know what Wacom I'm using and what he should look for when purchasing a Wacom. That's the first part. So let me answer into that. I'm using a Cintiq 21-inch. I use the 20 or I think it's a 20-inch CSX Cintiq. Before that, I had a Intuos 2 for the longest time. I don't recommend getting a Cintiq unless you can sort of shoulder it's the burden financially. They're pretty expensive. I would sort of say if you just want to get into coloring art, you don't really need a Cintiq to do that. I got it to draw. I really don't know how to use a Wacom or an Intuos pad to draw. So coloring's one thing. I was pretty proficient with that on an Intuos, but with the Cintiq, drawing's a whole nother thing. So I would recommend just getting the standard Wacom, at least a 4, because the Intuos 4, mostly because Wacom is starting to phase out support for some of their pens and stuff. Like I use the Intuos 3 pens for the Cintiq still, and I use the classic pen, which I really, really like. And I do recommend, if you're going to get an Intuos, to get the classic pen. It's much thinner towards the top, like a pencil, so it sort of curves in like an actual pencil grip would. I really can't stand the thick, bulky marker feel when I'm working with these things. I like thin, pencil-y like interfaces, but they don't really make them Intuos 3 anymore, so I recommend Intuos 4. Do try to get one used if you can. Don't pay full price. You can always buy something new later down the road, but learn on the cheap. I always advise learn on the cheap. You can always check your Craigslists and stuff for people who are moving equipment, especially if you're near a metropolitan area. I'm near LA. I got the Cintiq that I have at work because I bought me one for work. I got that secondhand off Craigslist for $1,800 from some people that were closing down a video game company. So that's pretty cool. Let's see what else he says. My main thing is I want to All right, so Sean, really quick, you also asked about a screen protector for the Intuos. I've never, for the Cintiq, I don't have a screen protector on there. I don't really have a problem with caches. For the Intuos pad, I mean, those usually come on them, so it's not a big deal. I would not get a super large Intuos pad, like a 12-inch. I think the 9x11 is fine, but I used to have a 12x18, and it was just too huge. The 9x12 was pretty good. Using an iPad with an art app, is nowhere near the same as using, an actual computer. So, that right there is something I can't tell you to do one thing or the other. The reason being is that if you're really just trying to learn how to do stuff, you need to find out what's working for you. I own an iPad, and I have quite a few pens, and none of it's like using a Cintiq. I have Photoshop. I have the ability to do unlimited undos or layers, and I mean, just it's a completely different experience. If you're going to try to use an iPad as a desktop replacement, I'd say good luck. Maybe it works for you, but for me, I don't care for that. So maybe I'm just too set in my ways, but I'm pretty happy with the tools that I have now. I think that's about that. So, Sean, again, if you have any other questions concerning that, let me just recap. Get it into OS4, get it used to save you some money. If you would like to try an iPad with those little pens, then try one off a friend. Find anyone who has one that will let you use one. See if it's flowing for you. I don't like it, so that's my advice. Okay, let's move on. The next question comes from HoloGazer. All right, let me bring this up. Over at DeviantArt. He replied to the minicast episode 28. So HoloGazer says, one or two things I found particularly striking and I'm kind of wondering about is I do admire when an artist shows they're capable of doing different things. So he's got a statement and a question. So the first part of it would be, the fact that you, being me, Rob, worked in many different areas, hot shit covers, Richie Rich, etc., didn't sound too bad to me. From a theoretic perspective, you'd think after you got into certain fields, you can at some point pick and choose where you would want to work. So that's his opinion. His idea is that I do a multitude of different things. I have a lot of different areas to pick from, right? So that's the idea. Or would you say it's hard to get back into something you've done previously after you made a name for doing something else? Well, I don't think these two things are the same thing, Hollow, because I haven't made a name doing anything. I mean, if anything, I made a name just being a guy who puts up cool art on the internet. I'd have to say that I made business decisions that involved aligning myself with projects that I thought would help make a name. I wanted to make a name illustrating comic books and interiors. And the culture that exists around that right now was one that was extremely toxic. And it sort of bankrupted me financially and spiritually. Most of which I am just now recovering from. So that aside, the idea that spreading myself around different subject materials would be give me a lot of options. That's true. However, people tend to associate you with the last thing you did. So even if, let's say the very last thing that I'm known for doing would be a Richie Rich cover. That means all my offers are going to come from Richie Rich stuff, or kid stuff, kid properties. That's kind of what happened. And now, for a while with Big Dog, I was getting all these offers to do stuff like Big Dog stuff. And then now, it all stops because I stopped promoting a lot of that stuff and I stopped doing a lot of that stuff. Then I sort of have a clean slate. So the real question is, what kind of offers do you want to come across your desk? And right now, I don't care. I sort of feel that the offers that I want to come across my desk are people who would like to commission for more money than I've been making. The Kickstarter was one way to get a higher rate because DeviantArt's not exactly, a lot of people in DeviantArt are young, so $60, $80 is really expensive for like a 19-year-old these days, I suppose. But I should be making closer to $300 or $500 a commission. So getting $240 to $300 for an 11x17 fully rendered watercolor painting is not actually too much to ask for. But I need to go to places where people with that kind of money exist. So that's sort of what I'm doing, is I'm making a name for that. And then what I'll be unrolling over the next couple years folks, is my own, or are my own comics and stuff like that. So it's just been a complete different mental shift. So I'd say that you and I agree on what you were saying, just that it didn't work for me. So now I'm trying something completely different. And then he also adds on, I believe I've said it before, but it can't be said enough. I'm hyped to see original stories from you. Your concepts sound pretty creative and interesting so far. Is there one particular reason why you can't pitch to official publishers? Only thing I remember is that you talked in another interview about you pitching a concept to several publishers and they kind of didn't get the idea behind it. I.e., can it just be ninjas versus dinosaurs, which made him laugh. And since you mentioned Tokyo Pop, are the themes perhaps too anime-esque or generally unfitting to the official market or anything along those lines? So let me just basically focus on this. So you want to know what has kept me from pitching to official publishers. I actually made a podcast that was going to be released the second week of the Kickstarter that explained this whole process. I called it Rob Future, and I'll probably re-record it now. Actually, I will record it now because some things have changed. But what I tried to do, and I think it might be in Rob Fack. You may want to listen to that one because I can't remember what I covered in there. But I do believe in Rob Fack. I do talk about this official publisher stuff. So that might be 2 podcasts ago. It says Kickstarter. It's got the big picture of the Hulk on there. But in case you haven't listened to it, I had pitched to publishers starting around 2004, 2005. By 2006, the writer that I had sort of aligned myself with, and I had sold a book to Image called Mosaic. The artwork is in my Deviant, way in the bottom. Got my second daily deviation for that. But he never finished writing the series before we never got the first issue written after he sold it. And then Image had a change of guard between Jim Valentino and Eric Larson, and the book sort of fell through. That led into me being picked up at Ape Entertainment to draw Monstroids. Now, while I was at Ape, they're really cool. They always asked, hey, Rob, you got any ideas? We'd always willing to do some with you. But here's the thing, and I've said this 100 times, so I'm going to sort of reiterate it again, is that there are basically 2 ways to make money in comics when you sell ideas. One is that you find a publisher that wants to publish your stuff. They own rights to the art and the IP for a set amount of time, and they put up all the money, and you will supposedly make money back on profits from the sales, which means you will never get paid unless it sells a ridiculous amount of money. I mean, we're talking like you got to hit Walking Dead numbers if you want to see some real money back. So you say, well, how do I get money on every sale, right? Well, the only other option I know of is that they'll offer you a second option, which is where they're willing to publish the book, but you have to handle the costs of publishing. So you put up the $18,000, $20,000 it takes to do that, and then of course you'll make all the money back. But that means you got to somehow cough up that kind of money. So either A, you go to Kickstarter, which at that point, right, which didn't exist back in the time I was doing this, you could just distribute it yourself. You don't need another company to do that. Or you just walk away and don't do any business. I stopped pitching ideas to publishers because I didn't care for those 2 options. no matter how good they were to me or how awesome a company they were, at the end of the day, I'm not going to sell my ideas to companies. I'm not going to do it. Not going to do it. I grew up around the dawn of Turtles and, you know, the rise of independent publishers like Dave Sim and you know, again, culminating with the explosion of Image Comics. And it's just not in me to sell my IP, my ideas to a publisher. And then they own it, and I've already been dealing with this Monsters. People wanted to know why it's taken so long for Monsters to even be brought back up on the radar, and it's because they had a lock on whatever we produced for 5 years, and even now, they probably still own some rights to that art. So even if I do draw Monsters, it has to all be done from scratch. So new designs, new art, new story, everything. And I want to own my own stuff. So the last couple years, I haven't been in a position financially to even spend the time to do that, because everything I've done, and if you've looked at my gallery, everything I've done from 2006 on forward has been for work or for a work-related project, something I got paid to do. All the stuff I did for video game stuff came from play. That was for work. All the commissions that I did was to pay my bills. It was commissions. If people, you know, paid me to draw Spider-Man, that's why a Spider-Man's in there. It wasn't because I wanted to do it. The only time that I can say in that gallery that there's stuff in there that I came up with would be the Spawn I did in 2009, the Captain America 2007 or 2007, I think. Hold on, I just switched the volume. That's so strange. The Avenger set from last summer. That's it. So that's it. I count 4 things. Up until now, I've never had the time to do anything I wanted to do, and I've been so burnt out on interior art that I couldn't even fathom the thought of drawing one more page. I'm starting to post up the stuff that I worked on between 2008 and 2010, the comics, that Junior Monster stuff. And you will all be able to see the level of detail I was pushing for at the time and what it took. I'm going to do a whole podcast on each one just to break it down, probably for some people who listen to the Rob Fact, because I'm pretty sure I covered some of that stuff. But basically, what it took for me to get that level of quality and detail out of the art between myself and really sort of like pushing the colorist or you know, assisting on colors whether they liked it or not. What it took drained every living bit of energy out of me. It was crushing. And at the very end of the first issue of Monstrades, that was actually complete. I was on the very last 2 pages. Play Magazine fell under, and I lost my job. And it was just a crushing weight. So I lost my job, and then I couldn't pay my student loans, and I couldn't pay my credit card bills, and everything just completely folded in on itself, and I just took a complete step away. I didn't even draw from January to almost June of 2010. I took 6 months off drawing. All I did was graphic design. So I'm tired of these highs and lows. I'm not getting any younger. The only thing I can do to keep that from happening is protect myself from other people. I'm not the type. I've always known this, and now it's just there's no other way to admit it. I'm not the type to go in and be told what to do every day, and I knock it out, and I go play video games when I get home. I'm an entrepreneur. I've always hustling. I'm always trying, to create something. And up until this point, I've never just sort of said, okay, well, all of the stuff that I'm doing outside of work, at least, will be focused on that. I am transitioning to making it something that I'm doing all the time. Of course, I haven't picked the right economy to try that in, but I am making plans on that. But first things first. First thing is that I've eliminated all freelance. And the next thing I'm doing is getting the Kickstarters rolling, and I'm writing. you know? So it's just been a matter of me picking which story I want to commit to, because whatever I do is going to eat up, you know, my sequential art for the next year to 2 or 3, right? So I wish I could say that just settling on a story is a matter of going, oh, I'll just write about these characters and they'll do these things and everyone will be honky-dory and they'll have a good time. I do like to at least know that I have a foothold on an actual story, that there is a point, that there is a premise, that there is a meaning to it, that there is something there. I'm not the kind of guy that just makes up some shit and you'll read it and try to figure it out in the back end, but it'll look cool. So I will be devoting a lot more time to writing after PhoenixCon. I've already settled on the basic thing I'm going to do, the premise of it, the feel, the tone. I've switched the story up already because the format that I'll be using doesn't fit the story I had before. But basically, in a nutshell, I'm going to take everything that I love about games like Final Fantasy Tactics and Vagrant Story and Shining Force, these sort of tactical kind of grid-based RPGs. I'm going to take that and make a comic book out of it. So, you know, it will have the word tactics in the logo, whether it's Super Saga Tactics or something like Tactics Story or something. I haven't decided, but I have bought many URLs just to cover my own 2 cents on this, you know. And then it's just a matter of saying, okay, I can lock it down to 6 pages or 1 pages and sort of figure out the distribution of that story. Because I don't feel like sitting in my room just illustrating something on my own for a couple years and then unleash it to the world. So I'm working that out. But that's basically it. And a lot of the kind of concept art you saw me do earlier this year with these digital paintings was me sort of practicing for the ability to just paint the backgrounds and then do drawn characters. I'll be starting those digital paintings back up after PhoenixCon as well. And those will be devoted entirely to concept art for the comic, one way or the other. So, okay, we're already at the 30-minute mark, so let me go ahead and wrap this up. There's a couple more. Let's see if I can quickly answer a couple more questions. Santiago on Facebook asked me, I think I got that right with Santiago. Let me make sure I got his name. Santino, sorry. Santino on Facebook has a question about if I have any print advice for making print sets. Shit. I don't know if I have enough time for that. Okay, really quickly, here's my thing. Print sets is very, 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 very simple. Get yourself a printer that's cheap. If you can only go through online, I recommend Print Keg is a really good place. They're dirt cheap and they'll get the prints done. They're not, you know, archive paper or anything, but there you go. The second thing I would recommend is promoting them on your DeviantArt and your Facebook way in ahead of time and sort of try to get some advanced feedback. And my third advice would be don't do 8 to a set for your first one, because that's way more work than it sounds. Let me put it that way. Just getting that all together was tough. I'll try to elaborate more on this, but I think basically when it comes to print sets, you know, 3 is a really good number for anything you're doing, or numbers of 3. So 3, 6, perhaps 9. And then I would also just recommend finding a pretty decent place to print that's not going to, you know, put a hole in your wallet too much to do. Print Keg, that's PRANTKEG.com. They always did me pretty well. They were pretty fast and the quality was pretty good. I use a local printer called MGX Copy. You can look them up on the internet, mgxcopy.com. They will ship. They're pretty good too. I picked them up locally. I like their work and they're fans of my art. If you have anywhere locally that prints and you can make friends with them, I would recommend that, because it's always better to put a face to a name and they'll be able to hook you up quicker than a lot of other places, and it could save you shipping. So you'd be surprised what's out there. If you are unfamiliar with setting up your artwork to print, if you don't understand how to CMYK and do 100% blacks and adjust for, you know, blues shifting and yellows and red shifting, then just good luck. I wish I could walk through all that in one bit, but you're just gonna have to listen to podcasts for places. I'll see if I can't put together something, you know, maybe with this Iron Man stuff a little bit more in depth on how I did it. Okay, moving forward, but printing it is more important. Printing it and promoting it is more important. If you don't have people that normally buy your art, then, I can't really help you with that, So that's about it, folks. If you have any questions, please email me at rob@sketchcraft. That's the name of the podcast, craft.com. Be sure to check out the Game Cave show. The last 2 episodes, 003 and 004. I'm recording episode 5 tonight with Wesley. Be sure to listen to that. Check out the Etsy store. I got my prints up in there. I'll be putting some new prints up there tonight, so there'll be extra stuff, not just the Spawn and stuff. And then be sure to check us out on our YouTubes, Facebook, Twitters, DeviantArts, and of course, Skechcraft.com. Thank you all again. Talk to you soon. Bye.